Hello historians, in this video I'm going to tell you about the 2020 DBQ instructions, what you guys should be looking at on the test on May 15th, 11 a.m. First off, let's go over the rubric. I've simplified this thing. It is only out of 10 points, okay? And think about this. The maximum score you can get on this test is a 5. So you can basically divide this score by 2, and that will give you whatever score you expect to get on the test. I want you guys all shooting for perfect 10s because this is only one DBQ, and you guys can handle that for sure. Now, your first point is rewarded for your thesis. Obviously, your thesis should answer the prompt. It should be historically defensible, so you should be making some kind of argument. And it should establish a line of reasoning. So when the reader reads your thesis, they should say, okay, I know exactly what their paragraphs are going to be on because it's laying out that line of reasoning and what you are going to talk about and how you're going to prove your point. Now, I'm going to use your Unit 6 DBQ as an example for this idea. The question is evaluate the extent to which technology transformed the United States economy in the period of 1865 to 1898. Now you will notice that prompt is about Unit 6. They even give you the exact Unit 6 dates. Most of the prompts are going to be like that, where they're targeting a specific unit, so that's kind of helpful to note. In this question, they're talking about how much the U.S. Economy is changing due to technology. So this is continuity and change is what they're asking. What's staying the same and what is changing between these two dates? So a bad thesis would be technology changed a lot over the years in America. Now, this doesn't even really answer the prompt because it's asking you what changed in the economy. So you're right, technology did change, but this question is all about the economy. So it's kind of doesn't really answer the prompt. It's not really historically defensible. It's kind of a no-duh thesis. It's just yes, obviously. So that's pretty silly. And it doesn't establish any line of reasoning. I don't know what your essay or what your paragraphs are going to talk about with that thesis. Now a good one would be, although technology did not change the Southern economy during this time period, the U.S. economy in the North and West changed significantly from 1865 to 1898 due to the technological advance in industry and farming. Okay, now that this kind of thesis lays out exactly what you're going to be talking about. This is called an although thesis statement. You can see it laid out right here. But this tells me the first paragraph is going to be how the South didn't change, and it tells me the next two paragraphs are going to be about industry and farming. So this is a good thesis. It checks off all these boxes. You guys are pretty good with theses, so I'm not too worried about this, but there it is if you need it. Now, your next point is going to be your context, okay? Now, context is information not found in the docs, okay? You can't be cheeky and go up in the docs and find some information and then pretend like you came up with that. That's not going to fly, okay? It also has to be more than 2 sentences. So in my mind, they want you to write 3 or 4 sentences, okay? 3 is probably fine, 4 is probably good to be safe, but there you go. So again, looking at this prompt, it's asking us about 1865 to 1898. I know that 1865 is the end of the Civil War, so I think I'll talk a little bit about the Civil War to provide context, right? A good way to do this is 20 years before or after, so take a look at whatever period they're talking about and then pick up your handout from the previous or the period after, because you can talk about before or after the topic. So this is Unit 6, so I'd go ahead and grab my Unit 5 and Unit 7 reviews and take a peek at those to give me an idea of what to write for the context. Now again, a bad example is the Civil War was a time of change in America. This led to more technology being developed. That is a true statement. Both of those sentences are factual, but they don't really show that you know your history of what happened before this time period. So a better one would be the Civil War between 1861 and 1865. Highlighted just how different the North and Southern economies were in relation to technology. The North had a clear advantage with more factories and Lowell production. Employing women and having more factories gave the North a clear advantage in wartime production of guns and supplies. These differences would continue into the period after the Civil War. So, this is good context because it shows that you know your stuff, right? You know about the Civil War, you know the dates, you know about Lowell factories, you know about how the North won because they had better production. This kind of tells the reader, okay, this dude knows his stuff. Okay, so context should be 3 to 4 sentences and show that you know what's happening before or after the unit. Now the next 3 points are for evidence, okay? You need evidence from at least 4 of the documents. If I were writing this thing, I would go for 5. I'd kind of wait till the end to put that 5th one in as a backup, but do at least 4 docs. Now this is no quoting, okay? Do not quote under any circumstances. The readers will not give you a point for a quote ever. Okay, so do not quote anything from the documents. Another thing I don't want to see that I've noticed reading your guys' essays is sometimes you do what I call word salad. Okay, you take a bunch of words you find in the source and then you just mix them all up and then make a new sentence out of it. Sometimes it doesn't even make sense. So please, please, please do not do that, okay? When you are showing your evidence, I want you to show that you understand what the author is saying, okay? Don't just simply rearrange the words in the source and then kind of barf them out into a sentence. Show that you understand what you are referencing. All right, order of operations. Now, how this works, what I want you guys to do is as soon as you open up that portal, I guess, or however you're taking the test, because nobody knows yet, but as soon as you click that button that says start the AP test, I want you to follow these steps to pass and have enough time, okay? So step 1. You need to identify periods being discussed and grab those notes or review sheets, okay? Have them printed because you don't want to be fumbling through tabs. We don't know if this is a secure browser test, if you'll be able to use another device. I don't know, okay? So have them printed. That would be much, much easier. This should take 15 seconds, okay? So you take a look at the prompt, you go, ooh, I see that's unit 6, so I would probably grab 5, 6, and 7 just to be safe, and have those in front of you, 15 seconds. That is your first step. Now, step 2, okay? Read through the documents, and I want you to categorize them. Pretend like you're doing a bucket deal for your little chicken foot thesis, right? But what we're doing basically is this bucketing stage right here, okay? So when you read the prompt, evaluate the extent to which technology transformed the United States economy in the period from 1865 to 1898, okay? Now, you could arrange them in time periods. So maybe you might say, okay, I need to find out the documents that are from early in this time period and late in this time period so I can compare and contrast those 2 different time periods. Or you could do what I did in that last thesis I showed you and go into regions, okay? So you might say, well, docs 1 and 2 are kind of about the north, doc 3 is the west, doc 4 and 5 are about the South, so you could divide them into regions, categorize them rather into regions. You could do it into topic, right? You could divide them up into agricultural and industrial. It just kind of depends on what the prompt is and what direction you want to take this essay, okay? So this should be 5 minutes. I'm thinking they'll give you some pretty short docs for a 45-minute essay. So in 5 minutes, you should read the docs and kind of have an idea of how to categorize them. Now, step 3, this is only 2 minutes. You should look at each doc. Don't write anything for this step, but kind of think about the point of view, the purpose, the historical situation, and audience of each of these documents. Remember, this is for these 3 analysis points. You need to show that you know at least one of these things for your document when you use it for evidence, okay? Really, when you guys write your essays, you are using these one of these 4 things. You just don't really know it, okay? But it's just kind of good to be aware of these ideas: point of view, purpose, historical situation, audience, because it's so important on that rubric. For instance, I might look at document 2. It's just a photograph, but it's by this guy Lee it's on the Lee Farm north of Sheldon, Nebraska, 1888. So I could say, okay, the point of view is someone from the West. The purpose is to show how cool their machine is and what great farmers they are. The historical situation is in the West post-Civil War, late in the period we're talking about. And the audience, we don't know the audience from this, probably just Americans in general. Okay, so that's kind of what I want you to think about for each of these docs. Now, 4th, I want you to brainstorm outside info. This is only 2 minutes, okay? So grab those review sheets and start reading over whatever topics are covered. So again, this is economy, this is technology, so flip to the economy and technology boxes down here and take a look at what you wrote for that outside evidence. Make sure it's not the same info as what is in the docs. Now, step 5, write your thesis and start your outline. This is typed, okay? So just take a look at this outline. We'll go over this more specifically in a second here, but just start writing this outline right here, okay? Just start slamming out a thesis, get some information or some context, get those documents paraphrased in here. Just type out a very basic outline, and then after you type that out, go to step 6, okay? Fill that outline out. Spend maybe 6 minutes per paragraph filling in your outline and making sure you're hitting all of those points of evidence and analysis and all those things, okay? Again, follow this outline. I think it'll make it much easier. Now, there is a step 7. If you have extra time, you can go back and you can start reviewing areas where you feel weak. So you might say, oh man, I feel like I only got 4 quotes, right? 4 pieces of evidence from the docs, which is all I have here. So you might say, okay, well, I could add an extra piece of evidence to my paragraph 4, so I think I'll do that, okay? So if you have extra time, go back and kind of strengthen whatever you have already written. Okay, so just to review those order of operations, you open up your DBQ test and you say begin test. You grab the period sheets that you need to take the test. You read those docs and start thinking about how you're going to categorize them according to the question. You are going to think about your point of view, purpose, historical situation, and audience for each doc, not writing anything down, just thinking about it. You're going to brainstorm outside information by scanning over your review sheets. You will write a thesis and get a general outline out about what you're going to write about in this essay. then you're going to spend the bulk of the time, 30 minutes, filling in that outline and making sure your essay makes sense and it's you have all the requirements you need. Extra time will be reviewing and beefing up wherever you feel weak. So that is order of operations. Next up is the outline itself. Okay, now the outline. I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time on this because you guys have written a ton of essays and you kind of know the deal with this, but your first paragraph is going to be maybe, I don't know, 3 sentences, maybe a little introduction on the topic, and then give me your thesis, okay? Now make sure it is at the end of the paragraph. I've seen teachers even recommend that you put like a parentheses after you write your thesis and you write the word thesis so that the reader knows, okay, this is his or her thesis. Boom, okay. So make sure your first paragraph is maybe an introduction sentence and then give me your thesis right away. Your next paragraph is purely context to get those context points. Okay, so this one should have nothing from the documents. This should be stuff from either before or after the prompt, okay? So think about those review sheets before and after whatever time period is being asked about. And again, 3 to 4 sentences of context is perfect. Now, paragraph 3, this is your first main point from your thesis, okay? Make sure your thesis is what maps out your essay. So main point from the thesis is right here. Now, for this first one, I said to use 2 documents as evidence. That's kind of up to you and how you want to format your essay, but 1 paragraph at least at the start should have 2 evidences from the documents. And again, make sure you're mentioning the purpose, the audience, all that stuff, and how it proves your thesis. So think like topic sentence, paraphrase document, explanation of that document, and then repeat, and then maybe a transition sentence if you're feeling fancy, but that is not essential, okay? So 5 to 8 sentences there. Again, paragraph 4 is your second main point. Here I said to use a document and then some outside historical info, and then same for paragraph 5, okay? Now, this is a minimum, right? You need 4 documents. You need to use 4 documents and you need 2 outside information. So if you follow this outline, you are getting full points. But again, when you're done writing, if you have extra time, go back and say, oh, you know what? Maybe my outside historical fact for this one was not that strong, so I'm going to add another one just in case, okay? So this is kind of bare bones. Get something on paper, and then hopefully you have time at the end to go back and say, okay, I'm going to kind of beef this thing up and make sure it's looking good, okay? So I hope this helps with how you guys write your essays. Please use this when you're practicing writing. If the first few take you way more than 45 minutes, don't worry about it, okay? This is how you learn. If the first one takes you an hour and a half, that's totally fine. As long as you're trending in the right direction. You know, you go an hour and a half, next one is an hour and 10. As long as it's getting shorter and shorter, you're on the right path. So again, I hope this helps. If you guys want any more information from me, please let me know. I'd be happy to make videos or whatever you guys need, okay? Thanks for watching. See you later.